In this lesson, we'll add some resolution to the geometry that we created in order to help maintain its shape when we go in and do some smoothing. Alright, so the next thing that we want to do here is take the geometry that we have, and I'm going to go ahead and just do it on a couple of these pieces. And so I've got this piece here, and we need to be able to see this, what this is going to look like when we do some smoothing. So I'm going to go to the modifier list, and we'll just add a mesh smooth to this. Go ahead and add that, and you can see how just blobby that is. It's not really looking the way that we want it to look. I'm going to go ahead and up the iterations here. And so to preview this, I'm going to go ahead and just turn off this show end result right here. And so you can see how I can kind of quickly see the result of the stack, or turn that off. And so now what I want to do is edit this poly so that we get some of the edges to be kind of nice and sharp. Now in some of these we want them to be soft, like the front of this and some of these areas, the front of here, so we just need to be careful where we add those. I'm going to go ahead and add, select the edges that are kind of perpendicular to where we want to add some edges, and we'll go into selection, choose ring, to select the entire ring, and then we'll again go to connect, and this time let's go ahead and drag our segment up to maybe right around here or so. Okay, and we want to drag that up a little bit farther. Keep in mind that it's going to be a certain amount of hardness here. It's going to basically smooth it from here to here to here, so get a little bit harder. Okay, we can go ahead and preview that, see what that looks like. You can see how it's hardening things up just a little bit. We can also go in here and select this edge, again select the ring, and again go in and go to connect, and then we can add an edge along there. Okay, and keep in mind this part will probably be a little bit sharper than the cushions above, right? So there we can kind of preview what that's starting to look like. Okay, let's go ahead and also add an edge kind of along here, along the back. So go ahead and go to edge, select the edge back here, and do a ring select, and then again we'll go ahead and connect. So you're starting to see that how we can use this to just very quickly add some resolution here. Okay, now again we're starting to see what this is looking like, starting to look like something here. Okay, let's go ahead and add another edge right in here to kind of tighten that up. Okay, so we'll go ahead and again select these edges, select the ring, and connect, and this time we'll drag that edge back here. Something like that, so it's going to tighten up that corner just a little bit. Okay, now we can take a look at that. Okay, and that's starting to look a little bit more like what we want. Now if you want the side of this to kind of tighten up just a little bit, then we need to add some edges there as well. Same thing over on this side. So we'll go ahead and select these edges, select the ring, and connect. Okay, we'll go ahead and drag it in somewhere like that. And then over here we'll do the same thing. Go ahead and select that ring and connect. And then we'll run this over in this direction. And then we'll be able to visualize that. So you can see there we've got kind of a sharper edge on the back. Still soft, but much softer as it comes over here on the front. Okay, and if you want it to be kind of nice and hard underneath, we need to add maybe one more edge coming right across the bottom there. So again, we'll go ahead and select the edge, select the ring, and go ahead and connect. And this time we'll drag this down right about here. Okay, and once we get this one the way that we like, we can actually use this as a guide for the others. So we want to add the resolution in exactly the same spots basically. Okay, so in this case we want to add over here, we want to add res right along where these are so that the curvature is exactly the same, if that makes sense. Okay, now let's look at the cushions and see what the difference will be when we go in and add the resolution for that. So we've got one of the cushions here. I'm going to go ahead and add a shell modifier to this just to add some thickness, and we'll go ahead and add it to the outer amount in this case. We'll go ahead and drag that up, and maybe 4 inches, 3 or 4 inches or so. So just something like that. And now the cushion we want to be a bit softer, right? We don't want it to be quite as hard as the kind of the framework that we've got underneath there. So what we can do is just add our lines a little bit farther apart. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse the stack here, convert this to an editable poly. And this time, when we go in and add our edges, we'll add them a bit farther apart. So we'll go to connect, and we can add two at one time if we want to. For instance, if we want to add one up here and one back here, we can actually bump the number of segments up. And instead of using this slide, we can actually use our pinch to move these both at the same time. So we can go in and get kind of like that. Now if we want this side to be a bit harder, we can add an edge along there. Okay, so we'll select that, select the ring, go to connect. This time we're going to one segment, dial down our pinch, and just simply use our slide. Okay, then we can preview this either by putting a modifier on this. You can also go down to your subdivision surface rollout and just check on this use NURM subdivision. Okay, and you can change the iterations, and that'll give you an idea. And you can see how that is a bit softer than this harder one underneath. Okay, let's go ahead and turn that off, and now I'll add one more line right over here. Go ahead and select that ring, connect, and this time we'll move it over to this side. Okay, you can look and see how far over you did the previous one, just so it's about the same. And now we can preview that. Now looking at this, you can see that our inside here is very, very soft. So what we might want to do is add a line right along in here. Let's go ahead and select this edge, select the ring, and we'll go back to connect and insert an edge loop in there. And that's what that's going to do, is tighten up this edge right in here. Okay. We want something along those lines. And you can see how that tightens that up nicely. Okay, so that's basically one section. So what you want to do is repeat that process on the rest of these pieces. So take your main pieces, add the same resolution that we've added here. Okay. So you can preview that and see what that looks like here, and you can add that resolution just to match up. So what we want to do is add that same resolution on all of these sections. Okay. Let me go ahead and undo that. I moved it over. Do that move there. And so just add your resolution on all of those different sections, and also add your thickness for your cushions. Going to be seams from the upholstery, and just little things that are going to make it kind of look a little bit more realistic. So let's look at a couple of things that we can add here. So if I go ahead and look at, for instance, this piece here, and I've just got this NURM subdivision turned on. If we go ahead and turn that off, we can see that this is pretty low res. So what we want to do to be able to access some of these edges and come in and create some of the seams is to actually add a modifier. So I'm going to take this guy, and using it as an example, I'm going to go ahead and add just a turbo smooth to this. Okay, and you can either use this, or you can also up the iterations if you want to. I'm going to maybe try it at kind of a lower number of iterations, down to 1. And now to actually access these polygons, if you go ahead and click on this, you're not able to access those new polygons at all. So what we need to do is add another modifier to the top of the stack. So in this case, we'll go ahead and add an edit poly modifier above the turbo smooth. And so this allows us to actually come in under the edit poly, select the different sub-objects, and then on our object we can select those. So I'll simply select one of the edges right along this side here, go ahead and select the entire loop. And now we need to turn this into a loop of polygons rather than an edge loop. So to do that, we can go down to Edit Edges, and we'll use chamfer. Go ahead and open the settings, and we'll dial our chamfer amount down fairly low until we get kind of the width of the seam that we want to create there. So maybe something like that. We'll say OK to that. With those edges still selected, go up to our selection rollout, hold down Shift, and click on our polygon icon here, and that will select those polygons. Now we can go back down to Edit Polygons, and then we can do an extrude. Okay, so we'll do a simple extrude. We'll say extrusion type by local normal, and we'll just pull this out just slightly. Okay, we'll pull it out very slightly, and then we could maybe do one more that is a little bit farther out, and say OK to that. All right. And now if we were to take this and add another turbo smooth on top of it, then we can see, if we turn off our edged faces, we can see that we've added now a little bit of a seam there. And we can take this and up the iterations if we want to kind of make that a bit smoother. So that gives you that kind of a look. And you can do the same thing on the cushions or the side here over on this side as well. Just go ahead and add a couple. I've just gone ahead and added a smooth, so we're able to access kind of a higher res version of this. Now add an edit poly modifier to actually edit those polygons. And you can see if I come in here and now take off my modifiers, I'm able to go back to the original. So I can turn these all off, and I'm now back to my original geometry. So this modifier stack is actually a very powerful way of working, and the ability to come in here and do all these things and still be able to go back to your original if you need to. Okay, keep in mind that if you're not seeing the changes that you have in here, you may need to turn on this show end result depending on what kind of modifier you're using. Okay, so go ahead and do the same thing to the cushions. If you want to have kind of a seam along the sides of the cushions, you can do the same exact procedure here, and also any sort of seams that you want on the sides of these back pieces. All right, so we'll go ahead and finish doing that using the exact same procedure, and then in the next lesson we will come in and start to add some irregularity to some of these things. So right now everything's very smooth and very CG-like, and so we'll look at a very easy way to come in and start to break things up a little bit and rough things up a little bit so that they look a little more realistic. Okay, so we'll go ahead and look at that next.